It is Talk 25 to 3. Let's talk electric cars. It's something we visit this one fairly regularly for different reasons. I was just reading this report that apparently says electric vehicles are losing more than half their value within 2 years compared to 30% for petrol and diesel cars. A typical EV now retains just 49% of its value over 24 months, down from 83% in 2022. Car makers slashing prices to hit net zero sales targets is being blamed for the steep drop. Let's speak with Quentin Willson, motoring journalist, former Top Gear presenter, regularly helps us out on these kind of stories. Quentin, good afternoon to you. Yet again, here it is, the EV is under the spotlight. I don't know whether there's any mischief in these statistics or not, or whether this is just an irredeemable reality that, you know, as companies slash the price of a new car, the second-hand market takes a hit.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always mischief in these statistics, Ian, and I hate to break it to you, but the Daily Telegraph doesn't like EV.
What?
Who would have thought? But what we've got at the moment is what's known as disorderly market. So car makers are trying to buy market share by cutting prices, and that obviously has the knock-on effect of nearly new prices depreciating much faster, because it's now, you know, you can buy a brand new one for the price of a nearly new one because they depreciate so quickly.
Of course.
So, but if you look down in the market, and my advice to your viewers, if they were to be interested in buying an electric car, is that the sweet spot is between kind of 10 and 20,000 pounds. There's 2 to 3 year old EVs that have done all their depreciating, but still represent absolutely amazing value. And you can buy a Tesla Model 3, maybe 3-4 years old with 70,000-80,000 miles now for between 10 and 15,000 pounds. And that's really good. That car will never go wrong. It'll run forever. You'll have no maintenance bill. So this depreciation for consumers is a good thing. Not so good for leasing companies, though.
Yeah. Is it one of those, I may have mentioned this to you last time we spoke, Quentin, that we don't have a sort of a frame of reference really for what an electric vehicle is a few years down the line. If my car, it's an XC90, it's a Volvo, I live in Sevenoaks, for goodness sake, it's almost compulsory, so I've got one of those, and I know when I go to, when I went to buy it, had some miles on the clock, I was never going to buy a brand new one with all the school runs and goodness knows what. I can make it work. If somebody says, oh, that's done 60,000 miles, and I go, okay, it's 3 years old, I know what that means. So, it's 20,000 a year, but that's okay because it's a Volvo, it's a good car. I can make all the connections because I've grown up with that from the first time I picked my first Haynes manual out of the rack in Halfords, as we all did back in the day. I know what that means. I don't know what it means in the EV world, Quentin. I can't compute that.
It's a new market, Ian, and we don't. It's only been around when I bought my first one in 2009, so it was 16 years.
Yeah.
So, what we're seeing now is there's a guy who buys and sells EVs, and he bought this Tesla Model 3 with 210,000 miles on it as a kind of joke, and I think he gave 10 grand for it, 9.5.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it on YouTube and driving it and saying, my goodness, this car is amazing. It's done 225,000 miles now, and he went through all the repairs that the car had over the years, and it's just nothing. So we're going to have to change our perceptions. The psychological framework that you talk about, where I don't want a car with over 100,000 miles, and it's got to have 50,000 miles, and after about 4 years, it's no good. I'll change it. We're looking, and this is a big, bold statement, we're looking at potentially the everlasting car, because electric cars are made with aluminium bodies. They have, only 20 parts in the drivetrain as opposed to 200 with a combustion car. They require far less maintenance, and you can renew batteries, although the failure rate is very low. So technically, that car could last not just for 10 years, but for 20 or 30 years. So this is what we need to change our mindset and say, look, I could own one of these cars till I drop dead.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on, I guess like any cars, there are good EV manufacturers and ones that aren't so good. And, we are always tempted to point to the Chinese and say, well, they make a lot of them and they knock them out a little cheaper. But there's reason for that, because they're not as good. I mean, that might be a complete urban myth. Maybe some of them are fantastic.
Well, I'm going to have to change your perception here as well, Ian, and say that those Chinese EVs are blindingly good now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've driven a lot of them, and I'm really really surprised. I've come back from Abu Dhabi and Dubai quite recently, where they're all taxis, BYD taxis, and you get one and you talk to the taxi driver, and he says it's just the best taxi I've ever had. So don't dismiss those Chinese EVs because they're coming and they will be much cheaper. BYD are doing what we're doing, or the manufacturers here are doing, and that's cutting prices to buy market share.
Yeah.
So eventually all those prices will come down, and we'll be looking. And you already can buy the £20,000 EV, but we'll be looking at buying them at £15,000 brand new,
Wow.
which is where we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't a market that's going away, of course. The concern that perhaps many people have is much like, many, it's not a disruptor model, but much like that model. Once everybody's got one and the price comes down, is somebody going to start hiking them back up again? We've already lost some of the tax advantages around them.
I don't think so because it'll have a natural level, and there's so much competition, so many cars being made in China. We will in the UK and Europe get up to speed as well. Look at the new Renault 5, great car, £25,000, really, really good. So I think, it'll be competitive, it'll function normally. What we need to do, and I don't want to go on a rant here, is get government and particularly Treasury to understand how important this is for jobs, for growth, for getting all that restless capital that Trump has dispossessed in America and get it to come here. Don't get me started, Ian, because I'll go off on one, because, Treasury just does not know how important this market is.
Indeed. Quentin, as ever, thank you. Have a great weekend. Quentin Willson, motor journalist, former Top Gear presenter, who, whenever we talk about EVs and stuff, we often speak to Quentin because this was a man that would, of course, once upon a time would have thought, electric vehicle, are you having a giraffe, mate? He got one 15 years ago, never looked back.